as paradas, parece. Eu vi a mulher farmando um peixe aqui, ó. Onde tem o long aqui, ó. Tem sapão.
Jamili in position to just crowd control Chun-Li
Crack,
line of
velho.
sight. Gorecki moves in to dispel. That now allows Rubcup to charge across the battlefield and look for Hammer of Justice. Rubcup has been getting Hammer of Justices pretty much on cooldown. I would say the boys need to look to stop Rubcup from crossing the map so easily. Roasty's tried to sap it, but he got Ring of Peace right before he landed the sap and knocked him into a double Psychic Scream. That was beautiful from Chun-Li and Smexen, stopping the crowd control chain and also then turning it on its head. Jamili in trouble. Rubcup silenced, very low on health at this point. Cauterize is going to proc. Jamili's on the run. Rubcup's trying to stop the drink. He's trying to heal and stop the drink at the same time. Gorecki's actually just going to immediately open on Jamili. Then get back to Smexen in the smoke bomb to stabilize. Roasty's is grapple weapon, unable to attack.
O foda que peixe farma em um, né, velho?
Você tá sem gold? Ou você quer
Não.
upar perto?
Não, eu quero só fazer pra upar o fish e pra me fazer food.
There's a lot of defense available and they're falling behind on mana.
Yeah, Rubcub's mana not doing great. Paralysis coming in from Chun-Li. What is M2KC going to do in this matchup? Mew Mew Kitty Cats backs against the wall. They don't really have much offense. Ring of Peace denies the polymorph. Jamili with a nice shimmer manages to find it anyways. Ring of Frost gets dropped down. Chun-Li caught in crowd control. Beautiful job by Jamili getting the polymorph on Chun-Li. Ring of Frost on Gorecki setting up a 3v1 situation, but it gets turned on its head. Smexen with a nice double fear onto Roasty, onto Rubcup. Now Chun-Li getting aggressive onto Jamili. He's in trouble. Rubcup foresees the Divine Shield and the ultimate sacrifice to keep Jamili alive. In M2KC, they're running out of defensives and they're running out of time.
Yep, this game is now heavily in favor of the boys at this point in time. How much longer can Rubcup keep his team going for the push? Potentially, Smexen isn't going to be the target. I mean, there's so much more to work through. Maybe cut the string short, go after the Windwalker, try and do an all-in kill, or even go after Gorecki at this point. Rubcup actually going to be going after Rubcup, trying to rush this game down to the finish. Grapple weapon on the Avenging Crusader. Not sure how much that actually affects the Avenging Crusader. It was an interesting attempt, but I don't think it really affects it at all. You can still use the Judgment, which is the most significant part of the healing from the Avenging Crusader. Rubcup's going to survive that cheeky assault. Just shake it off. Gorecki activated Ironbark before the crowd control engage. This was a nice move on his part. That way they can hold on to Dispersion for a bigger push deeper into dampening. Smexen lands a double Psychic Scream. That's a good attempt to try and force cooldowns from Jamili. They get Blessing of Protection. Smexen's trying to dispel that off as soon as possible for Chun-Li, but Chun-Li is polymorph, not really able to output too much damage. Mana is evening out. Smexen just going to trade Dispersion. It's a fair trade for the Vendetta and the Combustion, but it wasn't any crowd control, so there is an opening for M2KC if they can crowd control Gorecki soon.
Não sei o que ela arruma, fazer 2 core, ó, corajoso.
O core lá é 100% casual, pô. Os caras, eles nem ligam se vão wipear ou não, eles só querem se divertir. Então, você não estressa, não tem como, não tem... Assim, um dia que você não puder vir, você não vai e tal. Em compensação também é bem... O nível de dificuldade é bem... Pra mim não me agrada, entendeu? Ficar só no herói que eles não fazem mítico. A galera é bem gente boa e tal. Tem uns caras lá que sabem jogar direitinho. Outros nem tanto. Mas a dificuldade é ficar no herói, ainda mais nessa altura do campeonato, pra mim não daria certo. Você foi no Mechator que a gente tava lá e os outros. Foi não, né? Naquele Mechator que eu li, eu fiz 100% high level em 93, eu acho, do mundo.
Which is going to be the safest route, although it's going to be a long and hard-fought road for M2KC now as they're out of mana. Very low on cooldowns as well. Jamili's isolated, but he's polymorphing Chun-Li, which is stalling it long enough for Rubcup to get out of crowd control. Ultimate sacrifice. Rubcup activates Avenging Crusade. It's going to be 3 DPS effectively for M2KC. Rubcup charges across to get crowd control as well for the team. Rubcup putting the team on his shoulders right now, making a push to bank the last dispersion of the fight if they can get it. Smexen's doing everything he can to hold on to it, activating Fade, then looking to counter engage with that Void Form, but activating Void Form while Avenging Crusader up is not going to be doing too much damage. Rubcup is going to be able to heal through it quite easily. Grecky dashing in quickly in feral affinity, adding whatever extra damage that he can. Smexin barely holding on.
Você usa esse lag ou não?
Não.
Overwhelmed from the pressure of the fire mage and the assassination rogue. The boys need to do something soon here, but they still need to get through an ice buck. They still need to get through a cloak of shadows. At this point, there's basically 1 point of defense available for each team. Dispersion on Smexin, ice buck on Jamili. Whoever forces it first is likely to win, and it looks like they're gonna force disperse first. Big kidney shot. There's no way you make it through this. He has to disperse, but potentially Jamili has to ice block at the same time. Grecky races for it. And now there's basically no defense for either side. Jamili and Smexin
nice
are the highest points of vulnerability. That feral affinity of Grecky is carrying so hard right now. Grecky is hard carrying the damage and manages to close out the game for the boys.
Wow, really well played there by the boys. It looked like M2KC was just trying to essentially dampen, just win the game off of mana. You know, Dragon's Breathing, Fists of Fury, all of these defensive plays coming in. But ultimately, the boys find their win condition. They actually win the race.
A equipe que eu achei que ia ganhar perdeu logo.
You don't have the Warlock there. You get a bit of extra healing, and you get things like the grip on those Rings of Frost, and here Jamili gets a nice blink counterspell, and he starts setting up for that cross CC. He's gonna go ahead and sheep Shan-Li in a moment right there, and then goes for the Ring of Frost, and there is the power of the Shadow Priest right there, gripping that Ring of Frost. He's gonna prevent a situation that surely would result in Smexin dying, and instead it's gonna be able to allow them to counter pressure. There's the Kleptomania, but Shan-Li is now out of the cross crowd control. Gorecki realizes he doesn't have any mana, so this is an excellent time for him to go aggressive. There's no Hammer of Justice, and Smexin with a beautiful double fear into the Master Spell is going to allow Shan-Li to stick on his target. Rubcub, no mana, no cooldowns available, and of course Gorecki with that Feral Affinity. We always compliment him finding those windows where he can get aggressive, and he does it beautifully.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of talent choices. Like, obviously you guys can check the talents, like it's the end of the season, so if you want to be pushing those ratings, you should definitely be checking what talents using the inspect tool that these players are playing, because they're the best talents almost always, and they will help you get to your titles. But one of the things that really caught me is that Rubcub wasn't actually using the Shadow Resistor in this matchup, which typically is the counter to Shadow Priest damage, right? It's like 15% off of all of the AoE damage and all of the damage over time, which is about 40 or so % of the Shadow Priest damage. Is pretty significant on a talent. And then as a result of that, Smexin was actually using Shadow Crash, which is a big burst talent that they can use. All of the apparition talents have been nerfed over time, so they had more burst damage to actually take down Jamili at the end there. So it's really interesting to see some of the adaptations.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a similar story for Jamili as we saw in Mageddon in the last series. He's not running the Temporal Shield,
yeah,
but
that too.
I feel like it's a big mistake. I mean, he's playing Controlled Burn. It's really not that much damage, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that great of a talent. You just play Temporal Shield, you play into your advantage, where in the late game, you just kind of win. The Assassination Rogue and the Fire Mage and the Paladin, they put out so much damage. You can get the Resto Druid out of mana and you just sit on the caster like the Shadow Priest or the Destruction Warlock, and you end up winning the game. If you have Temporal Shield, you get to hold on to the Blessing of Sacrifice or the Hand of Sacrifice for a long period of time. You can save your Ice Block, your Cauterize. It just plays into their strategy. It plays into their win condition. I don't really understand why they're not opting to play it.
Well, I feel like against the Shadow Priest team in particular, you don't get the
Porra,
same
eu tô
value
no
as
dia
you
de um
would against like
macaco
the
no
Warlock team,
apartamento em
because
cima furando
you can
alguma
spam the
coisa.
spell nowadays as a Shadow
Parece que o
Priest,
cara
of
não
course.
acaba nunca, essa porra só
But in
ali.
the same breath, the Shadow Priest is always slowed by the Assassination Rogue, so you can outrange it, drag the Windwalker away, and still get
Caralho, não dropa o peixe nem fudendo.
that's the logic why they don't pick it. However, I do agree. I think
É o que? O ralo lá pra você trocar por reputação?
I think there's a lot of
Não, isso eu já dropei. Eu tô farmando pra food do da.
control burn, and he was also running hot streak, and this is something I've seen from all of these mages running the Firestarter build. So Firestarter is an honor talent that allows you to reduce the cooldown of your combustion every 5 seconds when you press Fireball. Now, there's two Firestarter talents. There's one that's just a regular talent as well, not the honor talent.
Fazer lá DG?
All your Pyroblasts and all your fire
Deixa eu ver
balls
se o
have
bicho
a
tá
target
aí.
over 90% HP. Those two, because you just
É,
use
deixa
O Super falou que vai fazer, mano. Eu falei que é terça-feira, pra depois logar aí amanhã ou mais. Deixa eu olhar o negócio do horário.
Aham. Aí vai ficar faltando só mais um, né?
Tem um Pazu normal, o Pazu não deu 100%.
É, o bicho fica logado direto, né? Assim, não sei o final de semana. Mas...
it is just a case of talents, you know, like if they're playing for this dampening condition, it makes sense to have Temporal Shield protected by some of the Paladin's trash debuffs, and it makes sense to have the
Esse eu
Shroud
subi
Rush,
logo no
because
terceiro.
both of those are going to increase healing and
Caralho,
mitigate damage from the
quase
boys.
morri
Yeah,
aqui no
it's like
Hag.
those moments you kind of talked about where Jamili was using his Dragon's Breath on the Fist of Fury. So what happens, basically the mini game between Windwalker Monk and a mage is, the Windwalker
Mano, eu não
Monk
sei
wants to get
quase
the mage
nada
in
de
position where he
poção
has no
ainda.
shimmers, he can't get away, and that's when you use your Storm, Earth, and Fire and you Fist of Fury. That's the scary moment, and that's why Jamili is using his Dragon's Breath to deny that damage, because it's a lot of burst. But if you Temporal Shield, even just 2 seconds of it, even if the Shadow Priest dispels it, you still get that 2-second value. It's going to be, you know,
Caramba, fiquei
30%
2 horas
heal,
fascinando,
and that can
velho.
be the difference between using Ice
A
Block and not
casa aí.
using Ice Block. So
I agree.
I just think it's a
Sinal
good
de que tem uma
choice, and
casa
it plays another
enorme.
strategy.
Não,
That's
é
what I want to see
só
from N2KC. I just think
uma
they would
sala,
just
cozinha, um
play
quarto e o
their talents
quartinho
a little
onde
bit
eu
more
deixo o
intelligently,
computador.
play the same, and they would end up winning
E o
Caralho.
banheiro, né?
Yeah, I mean,
Então
we'll
não
see
deixa
how
pra
it plays out. It's also
fascinar a cada
interesting to
2
note
anos
that
não, que
Storm didn't
acumula.
choose this Shadow Priest Windwalker matchup
Ah,
because
eu
they
acho que é
have
porque tinha um
Flawless
mês
on
que eu
their
não
team,
limpava.
who is literally the highest rated Shadow Priest in US right
O
now.
que você
playing
mais
the
achou
Priest
aí? Aqui o que
Windwalker
mais tem é
matchup.
poeira.
Have found this matchup. It seems to be a favorable one, or at least a better one
Aí,
than
cara, o
the
banheiro, velho,
Warlock
tava podre.
that we saw coming out of Storm earlier.
Tem poeira pra
M2KC, though, the
caralho,
strategy
porque é
was
tipo
close to winning
tem
the
uma
race, but
janela
with a
aqui
few
da rua.
adaptations, they'll be able to take game 2.
I think
E
Gareki
aí
was the
não
only
tem
reason
jeito.
that the boys ended up winning. If Gareki didn't do extra damage, I don't think Jamili would have had to block. If Gareki didn't do extra damage, I don't think Jamili would have died.
Faltou fazer
So I
a
would
janta,
say
mas
that
tô com uma
Gareki was
preguiça.
to all of the credit for the boys being able to find victory there. I think if M2KC just held out a little bit
Ah,
longer
foi
and Gareki
fumado.
didn't add in that extra damage, that Smexen would have actually gone down. I think the compositions are evenly matched. Of course, Jamili should be min-maxing his talents a little bit more, especially at the highest level. But in terms of their execution of strategy, I think it was solid overall. Perhaps at some point they should switch to Chun-Li. Rubcub, I'm wondering if he is running the Shadow Resistance Aura again here. It seems like they've built Rubcub's talents to be more counteractive of the Windwalker, so running the double Blessing of Protection, but they're not actually attacking the Windwalker, so I don't see very much value other than being able to remove 2 Touch of Deaths in the game. I think just reducing the Shadow Priest damage overall would also be more efficient for Rubcub and his team. You see M2KC going for a Smoke Bomb play on Smexen. They're trying to get Gareki to run into the Smoke Bomb so he can be stunned, but regardless, they end up overlapping. Dispersion and Ironbark and Fate. This is a big overlap. If Gareki has to trinket this, it's basically all of their cooldowns. Yep. He has to trinket it. That's a very good start for M2KC.
Yeah, Smexen, I think he used the Fireblood racial as well, so they used 5 defensive cooldowns in that one exchange. Void Shift is available. Smexen has his trinket coming up in around 15 seconds, but after that, the boys, they don't really have too much left to work with. There's good offensive pressure now on Jamili. He's trying to kite away, get out of line of sight of Smexen, getting some counter pressure rolling, but there's good pressure from Chun-Li and Smexen. Jamili could fall, or at least have to use some of his
Ele
defensive
conseguiu
blessings
pegar o
free to allow
cavalinho?
him to kite away and get some distance.
Nada, eu fiz
Rubcub looking to
PVP
set
pra
up his team
caralho
with a
ontem,
Hammer of
deu
Justice.
15% só.
Gets in position, Ring of Peace denies, and I have to compliment Chun-Li in this matchup. He's been doing a really good job
X2,
with
eu
his
acho que
Ring of Peace.
X3 deve dar
It's difficult
mais.
to land the
Não é
spear hand
possível,
strike
velho.
on a polymorph
Vamos,
coming in from the game,
X3.
especially because he can pair that
Tem
polymorph with
luta que dá
Shimmer
2%.
in distance. The only ranged interrupt a Windwalker
Pois é.
Monk really has is that Ring of Peace, and he's been doing a really good job to use that as just an extra interrupt to deny these setups coming in from M2KC, and I think it's really well played.
Touch of Death push from Chun-Li, shut down by
Tô
Jamili.
puta com essas BG épicas, velho. Cara, não
It
ganho
looks like they're
uma.
gonna try and commit. They managed to pull Barkskin. Perhaps if they can stay on target, they can punish that Feral Affinity. Beautiful Ursul's Vortex, pulling Rubcub back away from Gareki. Roasty's snared up. Goes for the sprint, gets disable rooted by Chun-Li. Has to be Blessing of Freedom, so now Rubcub won't have that if he needs to use
Por que
it on
você fica
himself.
nelas, pô? Vai nas outras
Hammer of
então,
Justice,
velho.
so good min-maxing of
Eu boto
snares
nas
on
duas.
Roasties to prevent the reconnect. They pull a lot more mobility
Eu
cooldowns than the
boto
team of
nas duas
M2KC
porque
otherwise would have. Gareki's in
tento
stealth
fazer
now,
conquista quando eu
realizing
entro
he's
lá,
going to
só.
be the target likely with no Glaire's Medallion and no Barkskin, so the
Olha
best
lá,
way for
por
him
isso
to
que
not be
perde
the
mesmo, o cara
target
tá falando
is to be
objetivo, tá lá atrás
invisible.
com
You can't
conquista.
attack something that you can't see, so Gareki
Não,
goes
mas
in
tem
stealth and
igual o
uses his
Invernia
ability.
mesmo, eu
If they can't get
fui.
attacked to a different target,
Nem,
that
nem
target
tem
has
tanta
cooldowns to
conquista lá
survive,
e
so it is a smart
sempre.
maneuver on Gareki's
Se
part
tu começar
to avoid
atacando,
some
velho, tu vai
situations that
perder,
would
não
have
tem
been awkward
jeito.
or potentially his life simply by just
Olha lá,
doing
ó. Vai,
nothing.
como é que
Windup
ganha então se não tem como atacar?
I mean, that certainly is
Tipo
the
assim,
Não,
case.
porque
é
tem um.
reveza?
Tem um lado que ataca e tem um lado que defende a base lá, né?
Sim, mas se o lado que ataca nunca ganha, então troco a defesa, como é que é?
É, eu tenho que dar sorte de cair na defesa, que aí tem chance de ganhar.
Ah, tá, entendi. É porque eu tava confundindo com a atual. A BG não é assim não. Entendi.
É, lá é foda, velho. Tipo, você começa defendendo, tu já começa com 16 veículos já. E quem tá atacando começa com 12.
A kidney shot into a hammer of
Entendi.
justice is going to be scary, or vice versa, a hammer of justice into a kidney shot. So Garecki's going to respect this attack and use bark skin, but it wasn't Vendetta, wasn't Avenging Crusader, and now he doesn't have bark skin, and now he doesn't have Gliders Medallion. M2KC seem a lot more focused on punishing this feral affinity of Garecki, realizing that his ability to use it is too
Eu tô
much of a
assistindo o
threat, so
campeonato de
they force him to
PVP
run
aqui.
away. If he tries to go for an attack, then he risks
Cara, não tem
life.
nada
Some
pra
interesting
pescar
strategy from
melhor esses peixes.
M2KC. They're basically saying Garecki is the biggest threat on the team.
Com a
They want to
isca?
remove that by attacking him, but so far now Garecki
Não que eu
is
saiba.
around the map, and Smexen and Chun-Li will be able to ramp up a lot
Não,
of
não tem como
damage.
não.
Garecki gets into bear form with an efflorescence mushroom on the ground, so this is basically the most amount of healing he can do to himself, but it's Vendetta, Avenging Crusader, and multiple Gladiators Maledicts. I'm not sure if that will be enough on its own. Bashing up Roasties, double Psychic Scream from Smexen. Garecki jumps across the map and survives an attack that otherwise would have taken him down. So I will say that Garecki's awareness to know when to be aggressive and defensive and when he's the target has been 100% accuracy at this point.
Yeah, definitely good judgment calls. Light sweep on Jamili, paralysis on Rubcup, another setup coming in from the boys. They're looking to counter pressure. Dragon's Breath on Chun-Li, Jamili slows him down, and now nice control on Garecki, on Chun-Li. Now it's Smexen who's on the back foot, forced into the dispersion, but that was the combustion. That was a very nice attempt there by M2KC. They get the cooldowns that they need, and now Smexen's actually a bit of a vulnerable target. Going after Garecki didn't seem to be the best for M2KC. They really weren't able to get too much done. Garecki was just prepared for all of their attacks, so I think switching it up, going back after Smexen is a smart move.
Yeah, they definitely need to be a little bit more fluid in their targeting, just switching more often. That way they can get more mana from Garecki. If they become predictable, then Garecki spends less mana, and it's both basically impossible to get a kill if you're so predictable against a healer of Garecki's caliber. They do get his Gliders Medallion on blind, but Smoke Bomb not available, no Vendetta for some time, so no opportunity right now for M2KC. They should probably just keep attacking the Shadow Priest as they are and try to run Garecki out of mana and try and overwhelm the Shadow Priest in dampening, but they still need to be aware of when Garecki is getting a little bit flavorful with that feral affinity. Garecki's jumping in for the bash and a Gladiator's Maledict on Jamili, but Rubcub anticipated the crowd control and activated Blessing of Sacrifice prior to the engagement, redirecting the damage of that attack to himself rather than Jamili, who would have been vulnerable in that position. So good read by Rubcub, denying a kill. Chun-Li's trying to punish that cooldown usage by switching to the Paladin, which is a great strategy, as the redirected damage from the Sacrifice adds to the damage that you do to the Paladin, putting Rubcub even further behind. They stun lock Rubcub on his Avenging Crusader, then they Psychic Scream him, removing that cooldown for a few seconds, but ultimately Rubcub looks like he will be able to connect. They stun Garecki, but it has to be a Ring of Frost. He's in cat form, and because it's a Ring of Frost, Jamili fake casts it out to try and get it on the life grip, but he is silenced afterwards and unable to find it. Now Garecki gets some uptime potentially for that feral affinity, stunning Jamili on the polymorph so that he can heal Smexen through the Gladiator's Maledict, but Iron Bark may not be enough, and Garecki gets caught by the polymorph as a result. I think in that exchange it may have been necessary to disperse rather than Iron Bark. Garecki couldn't handle the amount of damage at this point in dampening. Garecki is still crowd controlled. Smexen could fall. Big damage. He void shifts over to Garecki, but now Garecki could get swapped too. They see the opportunity. Jamili's lobbing up Pyros. They see Roasties. He's going to get bopped aggressively and just close it out. Beautiful swap from M2KC. Nice adaptation towards the end of the game.
Como fala isso em inglês?
Bait.
Attacking the Druid here seemed even pretty decent defensively because of the amount of crowd control Jamili was
B.
on the DPS.
Como que é?
I liked what they were doing
IT.
with Chun-Li and Garecki. They were just stopping the polymorph. Honestly, Garecki played it so well towards the end there. He went into stealth, avoided the Hammer of Justice.
Deve ser Arcane Bait, não é? Será?
And then here he gets
Isso que arcano você pega aquele Margos lá, eu acho.
and then uses his Ring of Peace. And then here, Chun-Li gets an incapacitate.
Lá ainda Lara.
And Smexen does a great job there as well, gripping the Ring of Frost. So here, everything looks good.
Eu não fechei aquilo também não, até teria que fechar, mas
And here is the big mistake. Honestly,
Qual é
Garecki
que vocês estão
shouldn't have
fazendo?
tanked that polymorph right there. And because he was spending so much time avoiding the polymorph, and then Jamili ended up getting the polymorph anyway there at the end, that just made all the momentum shift to M2KC. And then of course here Smexin should have void swapped Chun-Li, who still had his touch of karma. Instead he void shifted Goreki, who was in a stun, basically sentenced him to death. So little bit of a mistake at the end there, but they honestly, Goreki played so well to avoid that CC chain. I think all of the boys played well to avoid it, but then they just kind of tripped on the finish line there.
Yeah, it was such a back and forth game. We saw some attacks over on Goreki, some attacks over on Smexin. Ultimately, it's a very close series, guys, here between M2KC and the boys. We'll see who comes out on top after this.
A Zisca, cara. Fala, Supão.
Fala aí, gente.
Olha o Supão aí, Stan.
E aí, beleza?
Parei pra ele logar aí pra gente ver com ele.
O que muda terça-feira aí?
Ah, vai ter umas alterações nas classes. Vai vir a DG nova, não, né?
Eu acho que ainda não.
Então, acho que é só nas classes mesmo, o Supão. E vai começar o novo, a nova dungeon? Não, não.
Não, as essências já vai vir.
Ó, tô falando no ranked lá do Raid aí.
Não.
Que negócio das essências é? Você fazer o quê?
É tipo um item extra que você ganha pra usar, tipo de uso, como se fosse um trinket, uma parada foda, só que eles têm um efeito massa. Tem um que aumenta o seu regen de mana, tem outro que aumenta a cura, tem outro que dá shield pros aliados, tem outro que dá dano.
Mas vamos pegar como isso aí?
Fazendo quest, fazendo conquista, fazendo até PVP. Tem tudo quanto é tipo de conteúdo. DG também dá. Pra fazer todas as místicas 10 no tempo, você ganha uma épica de DG lá que dá dano em área e tal. A de heal, se eu não me engano, é a de introdução. A quest introdução lá. Tem uma aqui que todo overheal que você dá fica armazenado. Aí quando você usa a parada, você cura a galera como se fosse um CD. Eu vou uma fofis.
Vou ver, vou dar uma lida nisso aí.
É uma voz do além.
É, coisa fofa.
E aí, Super? Super tá vivo?
O Zoro ressuscitou ele com um grupo supremo de DGs.
O Zoro falou que ia mudar tudo terça-feira. Não tô vendo mudar nada.
Só vai mudar a sua vida. Só voltar a jogar.
Vai ficar melhor as classes.
Vocês vão fazer o que? DG mais tarde? Ou
Acho
nem
que
vocês
eu
estão
vou.
coragem, nem vocês estão coragem.
Cara, a gente queria fazer DG até agora, mano. O Web tava esperando a força. Blue.
Fofis parece que dormiu 15 horas.
Ah,
Tava aqui desde 7 da manhã já esperando e nada.
tá doido. A mãe viajando, eu tenho que dar atenção pro povo, pros meus velhos lá. Levar cachorro pra passear, olha.
Eles são velhos, pois não vou nem lembrar que você já foi lá hoje.
Onde que
É, né?
ficaram em Argos? NPC.
É que NPC pode uma nave aí.
Não, tem um NPC que fica em Argos que vende a isca arcana lá.
Deve estar lá na base, lá na nave então, é. E fofinha, como é que você tá?
Tudo bem. Logar aqui, ver como é que estão a vida.
Fez tudo que precisava fazer? Mimos time agora.
Agora eu tô livre.
Muito bem. Viu o WhatsApp? Não viu o WhatsApp.
Eu não. Meu celular no final de semana fica num canto esquecido em algum lugar.
É bom que segunda-feira você já vai levantar arrependido, então.
Não tá compensando a fazer roxo, não.
Compensa arrumar quem compra. Essa semana, se eu não me engano, é a última que o cara pode pegar as conquistas de DG. Lá era pra. O Zoro já tá anunciando já. Mas Zoro é foda, bicho. Zoro não anuncia, não faz nada.
É, o Zoro fica o dia inteiro online, né?
Desde tarde ele cair. Pergunta quantas vezes que ele anunciou.
Eu não sei mesmo não, velho.
Faz
Não
nada.
tem mensagem, não tem nada, não tem ninguém pra fazer.
Faz nada, o cara peso morto.
Os caras quase me deu. Os caras quase deixou pra trás no ativo.
Peso morto do cara, ele desesperou super que ele não ia pegar o ativo.
Perdeu um ativo?
Ele ia perder, eu falei, calma Zoro, eu te salvo. Calma Zoro. Mas não vou pegar não, essa porra pra lá, vou sair daqui.
Aquela choradeira.
É, vou sair daqui, vocês não gostam de mim não. Você só me usa. Falou desse jeito. Só me usa, eu ajudo todo mundo, ninguém me ajuda.
Tu arruma esse Dorn, mano. Não sei que era pra comprar esse item, esses bichos.
Não resistiu não, né, Fofis? Agora você olhou, né? Você viu aí o que você fez. Eu nem comentei do tom, assim. Ele que já falou, nossa, mas que não mais carregado.
Verdade, as pessoas podem nem falar nada mais hoje em dia.
Não consegui nem dormir depois dessa. Sua consciência não pesou não, né?
A consciência tá levinha, tá tranquila.
Então você repetiria a mesma coisa do mesmo jeito. Entendi. Tá bom.
Ai, ai.
Você sabe que o Champs é uma pessoa que não mente. Oh.
Beautiful engagement by Smexen. They left him open for a few seconds. Now he's really getting to shine with tons of pressure on Jamili. Rubcup dispels that Gladiator's Maledict instantly. Is there
Logo aí, vamos fazer alguma coisa quando você estiver disposto.
Rubcup pops the Avenging Crusader. Rubcup
Abrindo as Itlé.
want to get aggressive. Who are they going to attack? Is it Gorecki? I mean, it likely is. He's got no Gladiator's Medallion, no Bark Skin, but instead they go for Dragon's Breath, Ring of Frost. Smexen grips Gorecki away. He shapeshifts the Life Grip. Pre-master spellcast by Smexen, snipes it instantly. Beautiful play from Smexen.
They need to be more coordinated, honestly. M2KC is letting way too many massive spells come in on that Hammer of Justice. It's the one thing that's sort of required against this Shadow Priest is you have to have either a kidney shot or a counterspell or a kick to deal with that. And if you don't, then the Hammer of Justice is essentially a waste if Smexen knows what he's doing, which it appears he does. So that's something that M2KC could definitely clean up a little bit. Or 6% dampening right now. Rosty's going for a play. Goes for the blind onto Gorecki. M2KC is looking to make an offensive push over onto Smexen. Combustion gets traded out. Chun-Li denies with the beautiful leg sweep. Jamili now getting some damage rolling, looking for a polymorph. Does manage to sneak it. Nicely done by Jamili. And as a result, I believe Smexen's going to be forced into his dispersion. If they have
BG aqui do sofrimento.
Gorecki doesn't have much catch-up mechanics at this point. There's no Iron Bark.
E aí, seu tu quer entrar no nosso grupo de
Já tá lá já.
mítica mais? A gente quer ver os horários, sim, que fica melhor, entendeu?
Contanto que não seja
Que vocês
fora da rádio, eu deixo vocês fazerem. Calma. Tem minha autorização, né, pô? Nós estamos cheios de novidades boas pra vocês.
Pô, só tem que migrar essas novidades lá.
Cheio de coisas boas pra vocês. Vão começar terça que vem, né, Love?
Ó, apoiado.
Mas não é a raid antiga ainda?
Pet novo, vida nova.
A rádio é antiga, mas as coisas vão mudar pra melhor.
Eu não vou, não.
Você não vai aqui na rádio? Não é rádio besta, mas... Fica aí então fazendo seus DG.
Cadê, velho? Ih, não tem aquele grupinho mais, né? Tô procurando aqui, Draw... Como que é? Draw Mana. Não tem esses grupos mais.
Mana afogada. Pô, isso aí só tem que... Como é que fala? Isso aí você tem que pegar na expansão, pô. Fazer isso agora é foda demais. Como? Mas
Porque eu tenho que farmar o negócio do Arcane lá pra me fazer a parada do Lê, da lendária.
É. Aí o
Isso
cara
aí demora pra caralho.
Sim, aí o cara tem que passar.
Demora pra caralho? Ah, você já tá me desanimando, pô.
Tem que ter grupo, né?
É o que eu falei.
Tem dia,
tem que
hein?
fazer na
De vez em
expansão.
quando tem uns grupos aí pescando. Aí.
Amanhã deve ter. Hoje deve ter, na real, porque hoje é fim de semana. Hoje deve ter.
Roasties can't sap because he's grapple weapon. Chun-Li totally shuts down that crowd control attempt. Gorecki jumps in to try and engage crowd control for his team.
Hoje vai rolar rádio, não vai, Love? Suba lá.
Vai.
Então vamos aproveitar pra tomar banho que é sábado. 3 horas eu acho que é o suficiente.
Hã? Fala com Super, fala
Será?
Super.
O que você quer? Raid não. Raid não. Raid da Urticária.
If they've given up on it, Gorecki decides not to drink. He's going to be pouncing in over onto Jamili at very low health. Chun-Li connects a huge rising sun.
Tá passando o campeonato de PVP hoje ainda, Love. Mas eu acho que eu vou seguir. Tá. Eu vou seguir sua sugestão e vou abandonar a ideia de que é possível pegar.
Falando, foque no transmog. Foque no transmog.
Ontem já foi diversão suficiente.
Então, vamos 3x3 aí, então.
Tinha que arranjar um membro aí pra X3.
É, não tem ninguém.
O cara não quer fazer
Relaxa, daqui a pouco a gente vai. Eu tenho que fazer mais 2 DG no Hag aqui.
Ah, não, velho. Você tá dia inteiro nessa carneta de jogo isso. Quem joga Hag?
Eu loguei agora, vai que eu tô o dia inteiro. Eu tava fazendo PVP, velho.
2019 não tem Hag.
Olha o que você tá falando, tá ao vivo. Daqui a pouco você vai ser processado aí.
Ô, amor, não tem rag, né? Opa! Vem. Quer no colo. Se você pôr a mão no meu teclado, o bicho vai pegar.
Ô, Zoro,
Não,
você quer aprender uma mágica muito legal?
não vou dar comprimido hoje em dia.
Não, não é isso não. Você já viu gato com asa?
Não,
Essa criança quase.
Você já viu criança com asa, então?
não, né, amor?
Ontem eu ensinei meu gato a voar. Se você quiser, eu
Vou
te
morder sua
ensino
orelha.
seu filho aí a voar também, sua filha.
Vou morder sua orelha, né, amor? Ó.
Se quiser, eu te ensino, cara. Um segredo que ela vai aprender a voar. A minha tá parecendo super-homem agora. É, pô.
Coitada da gatinha.
Fala, papai. Vão assistir? Eita.
Three members of M2KC low, but Smexen barely holding on. They're trying to shadow crash, big combo. Jamili's going to fall first, but Smexen can follow suit. His dispersion just became available. Chun-Li's off healing with Vivify.
Vocês estão tentando continuar mesmo com... Ah, não. Ok. The Boys.
The Boys. Ganharam? Tá empatado então?
Ganharam.
Tá empatado?
Eu não sei. Eu não vi se eles tinham ganhado antes. Não rep...
Hoje eu vi um Warlock jogando. Eu acho que eles perderam. Perdeu de 3-2, mas o cara jogou muito, velho. Eles perderam porque foi DK e Monge, aí você já viu. Colaram nele, não tinha nem o que fazer, coitado.
Bom dia! Vai fazer a DG ou não vai?
Eu vou umas 6 horas, eu acho.
Aproveita que o super tá aí.
Eu tô fazendo os treino hack, se eu não encerrar aqui, o tempo todo diferente pra mim. Tem que ser tipo organizado aí.
Comprei Minecraft. O outro até agora ele não sabe do videogame.
Olá. Minecraft, né? Aquele que você monta os trecos.
Eu não entendo o que é não.
É antigão ele, treco, mas roda em qualquer calculadora também, eu acho.
Nada, pô.
Minecraft roda, pô, é um quadradão lá.
Minecraft roda em qualquer coisa.
O charme dele é esse. Se eu não me engano, é um jogo que você cria qualquer coisa.
É.
Isso é bom, esses jogos assim que estimula a criatividade, que estimula a organização, é bom pra criança. Eu aprendi a ser super especial assim jogando Mario.
Não, eu comprei, tá lá o dia inteiro, cara. Cadê de manhã? Ele nem ligava, eu comprei o videogame pra ele, né? Nem ligava o videogame. Aí ficava vendo só vídeo no YouTube do Minecraft. Aí comprei o Minecraft tudo.
They don't have to trade out big cooldowns like the Blessing of Sacrifice, like the Ice Block as consistently, and I think just a little bit more defensive talent choices could swing this.
Vocês conseguem escutar esse filho da puta com a frase?
Sim.
Cara chato, cara todo dia agora no fim de semana eu quero mais essa porra. Deixa eu perguntar, amigo, você vai cavar aqui embaixo, ó. Véi, segunda-feira eu vou deixar a faxineira entrar aqui. Tem aranha pra caralho aqui, véi.
O cara não tem faxineira, o cara tem faxineira, velho. Pra você ver.
Tem.
Tá 2-1.
2-1, né?
Ele deve mamar no peito até hoje.
Depende de quem.
Lu?
Tô brincando.
Deve ser no do Zota.
Tô brincando, mas vou falar com o Zota que você falou que ele é gordinho, então, que ele tem peito. Tô brincando, viu, Fofis?
Ah, viu o Zota, pô. O Zota.
Zota até pensou em trazer umas hooker aqui pro meu aniversário, mas eu falei assim, não, tá louco? Se a Fofis descobre um negócio desse, eu sou fiel.
I'm trying to be politically correct here. It was bullheadedness. That's not like you. Bullheadedness from the team of M2KC with the double blessing of protection. That's more of a all-in kind of the way that they're playing it. I mean, they use blessing of protection so Rosie's gets uptime out of stuns. They're not using it really to stop touch of death or touch of karma, which is what I would have expected them to use that talent for. Instead, they could just go for the shadow resistance and just have 15%
Se você fizer 12 caminhada temporal
I mean, that sounds a bit better to me.
com debuff de 10% e a poção ali de mais 10, você upa o personagem 110 ou 120.
Sem nada, eu sei que são 20.
Ah, é, fofinho.
Tá aí
A gente
uma
tem que
opção.
fazer.
Vou fazer umas time off.
É, a gente tem que fazer 3.
Ah, não.
Mas assim, as dessa semana são horríveis, do BC.
Ah,
A
do
gente
BC
tá
eu acho
indo
razoável.
por aquele frasco lá. Eu não tô nem pra upar, não. Eu faço duas. Uma no out, uma no allo.
They can still turn this around. One
Eu
question I
meto
want to
duas
ask
aí.
is, obviously Shadow Priest, they don't have any range interrupts really. I mean, they have the Silence, the Horror, but typically they're putting those onto Rubcub. Would this be a matchup where you would consider potentially running Greater Pyroblasty?
I feel like on a small map, maybe
Tá fazendo o que isso, Pão?
you could probably get away with running Greater Pyroblast. I mean, it's a
Chupão ou de raid, eu acho.
teams in general, but you also
Chupão agora é o homem da massa.
A areninha maldita. A segunda areninha maldita.
Eu passei a gostar um pouquinho dela.
Ainda tá no meio termo.
É.
Maybe that's why he doesn't want to opt for it. You could definitely experiment with it a little bit though.
Alright, well we are heading into the fourth game of the series, potentially the final game, if the boys can secure through with another game or another victory here. Chun-Li, Smex and Greki, they bring out this new composition. It's the first time we've seen it from them, and it's looking strong here in the upper bracket.
Point a pretty aggressive map.
Essa arena aí favorece o grupo de Jamile. Eles não podem pegar uma arena muito grande, mesmo que seja caster, porque o Gorek...
Foram eles que perderam, então eles que escolheram, não? Ah, não, não escolhe mais.
Escolhe, acho que escolhe. Escolhe. O Gorek, ele pega mana se o mapa for muito grande, então acho que eles têm que pegar um médio, sabe?
Meu Deus, Priest. Tá na merda.
As it has not been any aggressive cooldowns activated yet. Psychic Scream stops the sap. Beautifully done by Smexen.
Yep, Smexen manages to survive. There's a nice preemptive Iron Bark, and Gorecki actually made a talent choice. He switched up one of his talents. He's actually playing Renewal in this game, so perhaps expecting that they go after him. That's going to be a key defensive cooldown that he could survive with. Smexen using the Vampiric Embrace with the Fireblood in order to survive. It's been a good offensive push early on from M2KC. They're trying to keep the boys on the back foot. It's going to be really difficult on this map for Gorecki to ever escape and go for drinks, which we saw him able to recover a little bit of mana in earlier games on those larger maps. So I think this map choice could be pretty good here for M2KC, and they could keep up this very aggressive playstyle, which they're kind of known for, and they could take Gorecki down.
Black hoje fez a arena com o Munejo lá, que ele dá morrada. Pegou 1800 no Comunejo lá. Nós temos um rival já.
É, o X3 aí não quer ir não, deixa.
É. Deixa esse frango.
Chamei ele, não quis ir. Ninguém quer ir PVP, velho.
Na verdade é que eu acho que ninguém gosta de PVP, entendeu? A galera faz que tem as recompensas e tal.
Ah, eu gosto de PVP.
Ah, eu não sou muito fã não, pra ser sincero. Se eu puder jogar com Affliction, eu gostaria. Aí eu garanto que eu gostaria, mas destruição é horrível demais pra mim, eu não consigo gostar da spec. Eu jogo porque é a melhor. Cara, fofinho, ontem carregou uns jogos engraçados demais. Nossa, patadinha pesada dela, meu Deus do céu. Essa mulher aí você não pode vacilar não, Zolão, que ela desce um... A patada mesmo. Né, Fofs?
Eu vou colocar o nomezinho de time e deleta Hulk, vai ser mais legal.
Pois é.
Yeah, there's great pressure on Rossi and Jamili. Cyclone now secured over on Rubcub. Good aggressive plays coming in from the boys once again. Jamili trying to find a Ring of Frost, unable to find it, but I think it was mostly just a bait for an interrupt. Going for the polymorph on Chun-Li. Nice setup here by Jamili. That's exactly what he needs to do. Get the polymorph on Chun-Li as the Hammer of Justice hits, and that way
O
there's no
PVP é
one that can really
basicamente
mess
igual ao
around and
raid
stop him.
mítico. Você vai fazendo, você vai ficando melhor a cada try. Você começa, tipo, lembrar das coisas e tal. Começa a jogar mais counter. O negócio é que às vezes você pega umas comp que literalmente não tem como ganhar, velho.
Eu fala.
Nós ganhamos, velho, de um xamã e um guerreiro que eu achei que eu nunca ia ganhar na vida de xamã e guerreiro.
Grecky keeping his team in the fight, realizing that mana is certainly going to be a deficit that he won't overcome later in the fight due to the map. So taking any opportunity to regenerate mana is going to be a game-winning play. Rubcub silenced, Roasty's stunned, but Roasty's anticipated this attack and activated Feint before being stunned, so protected himself from Rubcub having to use more significant cooldowns to survive that attack. Nice read by Roasty's. Rubcub's moving in, he wants to get a stun, Gorecki sees him, he's trying to dodge him, but these pillars are much smaller than Tolvaron, so Rubcub can sneak up, stun Gorecki. Jamili blinks in to get a crowd control, but Gorecki's in cat form. It had to be a Ring of Frost, and it doesn't look like he's going to get it. Gorecki then repositions away from Rubcub. Gorecki's main priority is stay as far away from Rubcub as possible for as long as possible so that the Hammer of Justices are so difficult to get, because the Paladin doesn't do a lot of healing while he's moving. And then whenever Rubcub comes close, stun Rubcub and try and crowd control him back. Roasties with a nice shadow step kick intercepted that crowd control chain, and now Rubcub is open to be in position for a stun, but Gorecki sneaks into stealth.
Fofinha, você falou dos negócios das texturas lá, mas eu não achei isso não.
Oi?
Você falou do negócio da Blizzard, da revamp nas texturas antigas, mas eu não achei isso não.
Eu falei, tava no Discord lá.
Pois é, eu fui olhar no Red lá, mas não achei não.
Ah, só clicar no link lá, porra. Aí.
Eu cliquei no link, porra.
Então,
Eu não
aí ó,
achei
cliquei no
não.
link e abriu.
Manda o link aí, velho. Você falou que deu revamp num tanto de montaria, boss, essas coisas. Eu não vi isso.
Quem quer no Discord errado, esse aqui. Eles colocaram os bichos mais brilhando, digamos.
Ah, tá.
Especially when Gorecki finds these windows of opportunity to get into cat form with the feral affinity and throw out that extra bit of damage. Mana still in favor of the boys in this particular matchup. Jamili tried to push in, going for Dragon's Breath, but Gorecki, heads up play, was able to avoid it. Now
Agora vai ter perna?
being punished for playing that
Ragnarok sempre teve.
struggling to keep him
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok. O Ragnarok.
O Ragnaros, quando você vai lá em Firelands, ele levanta no heróico lá. E ele tem perna assim, porra. Só que é engraçado, até no mítico ele fala cedo demais. Quanto tempo que o cara queria então? Tá parecendo desculpa de quem perdeu no PVP, né, Fofo? Esse Ragnaros aí.
Alguém vai querer ir no...
Ai, que eu não posso agora.
O quê?
Temporal.
Temporal.
Ai, credo.
Cadê a fogueira? Ah,
Deixa eu ver, você vai fazer quantas?
Todas.
e aí eu vou ir fazendo.
Você tá de quê? De...
Tanque.
Até eu roubar ela. Ela vai fazendo. Quando eu roubar ela, ela para.
Ah não, vou ter que dar banho na menina. Aproveitar que tá mais. Senão vai ficar mais frio. Dá um banhozinho nela, eu volto aí.
Zora é besta, ensinar a filha dele a voar. Ele não quis aprender uma técnica dessa.
the map is too small to really benefit from Wild Charge, so Renewal is just a better pick. So if they switch to him, that's an immediate 30% heal that he can get. So in this position where he has no Gliders Medallion and Vendetta is up, I think they would like to switch to Gorecki and then pop Vendetta, and then when he gets out of the stun, he can use Renewal. So I like that adaptation in terms of talents. Gorecki's definitely thinking 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, this is nicely done by the boys. Rubcup had to trade out his Divine Shield in order to save Jamili during that exchange. And now M2KC, they don't have much left to work with. There's a Vendetta. Rosties needs to try to set up his team, but Jamili could easily just fall. Crowd control with a silence over on the Rubcup. That's going to fade. Paralysis comes in from Chun-Li. Jamili getting low. He still has the Cauterize, that cheat death effect, but if they can get a Gladiator's Maledict before that lands, they can completely negate that effect and just take down Jamili instantaneously. Ring of Frost tries to get cast out by Jamili, but unfortunately it misses on Gorecki, and as a result, Smexon does end up surviving. That could have been a crowd control chain that just won them the game. A little bit of a mistake there for M2KC, or just a little bit unlucky. And as a result, the boys, they might be able to survive, but Jamili, he actually sneaks in a Polymorph. Very nicely done. And Smexon's still in trouble. He's using Vampiric Embrace to heal himself up. Top off his team. Gorecki gets out of the crowd control. Smoke Bomb gets dropped out now by Roasty. This is a great attempt by M2KC. They could just win the game. Hammer of Justice comes in from Rubcub. This is going to be combustion from Jamili as well. A big offensive push. If the boys can survive this, it's going to be huge. I think they have what it takes to take down Jamili after this offensive push, but they just have to hold on a little longer.
And the boys hold on. Both teams totally out of mana. It's match point for M2KC. They have to win if they want to stay in the upper bracket. Jamili's moving in for the game-winning crowd control, but gets denied. Smexon is still being pressured by Roasties. Roasties trying to close the game. Chun-Li trying to hold out with some extra Vivifies. Gorecki, he cannot afford to be Ring of Frost. They stop it with the stun. They go for a blind.
26% de dumping. É o que a gente já começa no X2, velho. A gente começa com 30 na real.
Jamili's pinned down. Cauterize triggered. He's on the run, trying to get back to Rubcub in line of sight, but there's no mana to heal him.
Por outro lado, com 2 caras te fumando também não dá, né? Se começa com 30 partidas no X3 já acaba muito rápido.
Smexon knows the game's in the bag. He's going to trinket out to just finish it. Roasties is stalling for as long as he can, but the Windwalker's cooldowns are activated.
Já vou estar fofo terminando aqui. Faltar uma.
Aqui, tô arrumando aqui, ó.
Preciso fazer a bolsa da carona. Como sempre, vai me carregando.
Some high-level play there from the boys, and their new composition works out.
Yeah, not only did their new composition work out, it felt like they were getting better at it throughout the series. Another clean game here coming in from the boys as they do take the series 3-1. You know, there's nothing worse than false promises, guys. Chun-Li holds true to his word. He's able to pull through with the victory, and we will see him tomorrow, just like he said he would in his tweet.
Yeah, I mean, Chun-Li, not really a person that we know to lie, so pretty nice plays from him throughout the game, and even at the end of that game he did a really good job switching his attention to Rubcub, shutting down the heals, and then putting his images onto Jamili, realizing he's not going to be able to catch him anymore and just hitting Roasties. This guy was for sure playing out of his mind in this game. We see a blind onto Gorecki. We see, you know, one of the final setups here, Smexon has nothing to work with, such a back and forth game here, but Jamili equally low here from the pressure of Smexon and Chun-Li. He's gonna go ahead and get his Cauterize active, and look at his immediate kick right there onto Rubcub. And then of course Jamili trying to weather the storm, and as he polys Chun-Li, he pre-incapacitates Rubcub, so while he's in crowd control, Rubcub can't really dish out too many heals. He sends his images over onto Jamili right there, attacks Roasties, you know, trying to build up a little bit of pressure, and then of course Smexon with a beautiful Shadow Crash crashes down M2KC to the low bracket.
Priest é foda, viu? Peguei o replay ali. Priest tem muita utilidade.
O Priest é terrível. Aquele Vampiric Touch dele lá me ferra demais.
Engraçado, aqui deve dar muito dano, porque o Affliction tem um negócio parecido com isso e ninguém liga pra aquela merdinha. O da Affliction acho que não dá dano nenhum, então se dispela e foda-se. Eu sei que o treco dá FIA, acho que é uns 3 ou 4 segundos, porque eu tava dispelando todos quando eu tava de healer. Eu não deixava ele usar isso não.
E o problema maior que eu achei ali, quando ele usa o Shadowmind lá, acho que é Shadowmind, que dá um dano muito grotesco quando ele tá ativado, também é uma merda. Aí você dispela um, você toma horror, fica no CC ainda mais fácil ainda,
De monge eu despelava com revival lá, já tirava todo mundo logo de uma vez só. Easy.
Achei geral.
Não, acho que é só você, só quem despela que ganha.
Não tem.
Sim. O Affliction, quando você dispela do cara, eu acho que o cara toma silence.
Yeah, it's been great to watch his growth from just warrior to this kind of phenomenal multi-classer for the boys. The boys will be the first team to advance to Sunday's bracket, of course, securing themselves a top 3 finish in this weekend's cup, meaning that they will play against the winner of Cloud9 versus Method Orange in tomorrow's broadcast. So now we have a situation where Cloud9 and Method Orange are the only other 2 teams we haven't seen yet today, both of them thus far undefeated in the tournament. I want to talk about Cloud9 in a little bit, but first let's talk about Method Orange, because Method Orange are one of these teams, Sid, that actually came out of summer flying. We obviously were
Cloud9 versus Method agora.
Method Orange já é campeão. Eu quero muito ver eles jogar e se eles vão usar a estratégia de sempre, que é DK, Demon Hunter, que o Zoron gosta, e Xamã lá. Tô doido, não sei o que o cara vai querer.
Now with a good opportunity to take on the previous spring champions, so I am excited to see what compositions they bring. Demon Hunter DK Nation from Europe was running Demon Hunter Death Knight and winning versus the Mage Warlock, although I will say I don't think anybody stands even close to the Mage Warlock Druid that Cloud9 is capable of, but I would be curious to see if we see that Demon Hunter Death Knight Shaman strategy that Burley employed, where they just maintained their mana until deep dampening and then went for a purge all-in strategy, if that is something that Method Orange want to use. It doesn't seem like it. They've been practicing a lot with Trill and Sam-I-Am, so I anticipate something involving those 2 players more likely, but the fact that Demon Hunter DK Nation had success with it shows that there is potential.
Yeah, potentially we could see something like that. The score between these 2 teams in spring was 16-9 in favor of Cloud9, so definitely one of the hardest matchups Method Orange has had to face.
Mas essa Cloud9 é bom pra caralho também. Acho que essa é a do Tirimbal lá.
If you think the spring finals champions Cloud9 are able to pull through, then hashtag C9, of course, for the return here of Chanimals, potentially.
Yep, é do Chanimal. Essa vai ser top pra gente ver, velho.
Fighting in this tournament, 3-1 victory over M2KC. We'll see them on Sunday. Now we find out the next team to go undefeated into Championship Sunday. It's going to be either Cloud9 or Method Orange.
Talvez eu vou essa temporada mais rápido do que eu pensei.
Eu entrei em uma aqui pra esperar, mas eu já caí no último boss, então vai ser rápido.
Caralho, que cara maluco, então.
Mas tava num raidzinho que tinha que estacar pro tanque não morrer e etc. É possível que o cara...
É, bem possível. Mas que foi quicado, foi. Aquele dia nós quicamos, cara, o spawn do Nexus. Ai, ai. Tá certo, pô. Se não quer fazer o que a gente manda, serol neles, né, Fofis? Eu não Einstein.
Como?
Se os caras não pug e não faz nada organizado, passa o serol neles.
Isso aí.
Viu? Você não é ditador
Não
também.
entendi não, mas é isso aí.
Seu ditador.
Ah, agora eu me liguei.
Aqui.
O que você tá falando?
LOL.
Tem câmera lenta aí, Stan.
É que eu tô fazendo tô no meio da confusão aqui no Vale de Alterac, na B.
Acho que a próxima season o Affliction vai ficar bom pra RBG.
Nerfaram aqueles itens tudo lá daquela
Nerfaram.
do Crucial Storms lá.
A razão foi boa.
Cara,
Eles falaram que apesar de eles gostarem e tal da ideia de que item de raid possa ser usado em PVP pra dar aquele push em quem faz PvE, né, entrar em PVP e tal, que como o scaling do PVP funciona, eles sentem que as pessoas iam querer farmar item de raid antigo, entendeu? Porque ainda assim ia ser melhor no PVP. Aí
aquele
tiraram.
Trint lá é muito bom.
Aí tiraram.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Arena World Championship, Cup 2 of the summer season. And we are potentially about to have the most exciting series of the day. The champions of BlizzCon against the champions of the most recent LAN event, the Spring Finals. And it's Cloud9 going against Method Orange. Of course, an absolute blockbuster of a series that we're expecting to have here. We're ready to hop into the game momentarily. It's Sea-Doo against Cubsy, like some of the best players that we will ever see in competition. Nagrand Arena blind pick, gentlemen, take it away.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Look at that, a 50-50 split between Cloud9 and Method Orange. Zico, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
I'm not sure. I want to see the compositions first. I assume we're going to see the Mage Lock Druid, okay, and we are going to see the Demon Hunter DK Resto Shaman. So this is actually what we saw over in Europe, and this went in favor of the Demon Hunter DK team. However, Cloud9, they have bested Method Orange in this particular matchup in the past. I want to see what strategy is Method Orange going to use. Are they going to sit back, maybe conserve a little bit of their mana? Are they going to go out and just play all out aggressive? And they seem to be going over onto Chanimal here. Trill activating that Metamorphosis, looking like they want to get some pressure going, man.
Yeah, roll the damage on Chanimal, try to get Cubsy out of mana. The one thing Cloud9 is really good at is Wealthy Man backing up Cubsy, Cubsy escaping, going for consistent drinks in the matchup. And I think if they can get that done, they can secure a lead. When we saw this matchup play out yesterday, I believe it was Jabingos playing up against Diabolus. Jabingos, what they ended up doing is they put the Demon Hunter on the Druid, got him out of mana. In the meantime, the Death Knight sat on the Warlock, denied a lot of that incoming damage, and then eventually later on in dampening, the Shaman could just throw out a lot of purges because of how mana efficient they are. They have a lot of gas left in the tank at that stage in the game, and that's something Method Orange definitely could implement.
Yeah, the name of the game is going to be shut down Cubsy from drinking, and once again Trill is playing that rain from above. He's been doing such an excellent job in these tournaments, kind of rotating his I-beam, his metamorphosis, and that rain from above to maximize his damage. Trill being a top raider in the PvE scene, being able to shut so much damage, and Chanimal right now taking the brunt of it, activating his spell reflect right there, getting a couple of fears that onto Maz. The immolates are coming out to get that flashpoint trait to increase his haste further on. And right now, Trill has actually been using a couple of mana rifts onto Chanimal for even more damage. They might not even be going for the mana rift strategy here, just using the mana rift onto Chanimal for damage instead of trying to run Cubsy out of mana. Another beautiful grip asphyxiate here as we see Cedu take a whole bunch of damage, Van.
Yeah, Cedu's going to be taking a little bit of a damage. This is a nice attempt coming in from Chanimal and Wealthy, man. That's the Icy Veins. So big offense going to be committed. And this is a really interesting adaptation coming in from Method Orange. They're not going for the mana rifts. They're just going to train down Chanimal in this game. Cedu's actually playing some really interesting talents. He's playing the Cleansing Water. So I believe he can just drop a Healing Rain on the ground and has a 20% chance to dispel him. So later on in the game, I mean, the main win condition of Cloud9 is getting long, extended crowd control chains onto Cedu. If during that late game period, he's just dispelling himself from Healing Rain, he has a lot of leftover mana, I feel like that is definitely an interesting adaptation for Method Orange and could bank them a win in this one.
Yeah, and there, once again, another mana rift towards Chanimal, but Chanimal actually decides to just sidestep that one and not going to be able to hit him. And Trill, you know, rotating his I-beam, rotating his metamorphosis, rotating that rain from above. And the reason why is because of that spell lance that he's throwing out. He's doing percentage-based damage, doing 8% damage per tick. And Warlocks, they have so much health. So it ends up being very, very effective damage here against these Warlock teams. And this strategy from Method Orange so far seems to be pretty good for
Você tá com o stream aberto?
that Healing Rain is gonna
Ainda não.
a lot of mana later on
Não,
in
não,
the
desculpa, o
game.
stream não.
Cubsy, when they play like
Twitch
this,
aí,
is
o
able to
campeonato.
go for
Sim,
drinks
tô
however
vendo.
he
Eu não.
wants. You see
Você
Cubsy
viu
right
ali o
now
CD de 3 minutos que ele acabou de usar do lado do Interrupt, é o que?
Healing Tide.
Beautiful bear form there from Cubsy as
É o
well.
totem de
He's
cura.
gonna make
É
sure
o
that
totem
he
de
doesn't
cura, é o
get
CD de
too
cura.
much in that swap. And now
E
we
os
see
caras
more
destroem
mana
esse
rift
totem ou
potentially
ele é
coming on
indestrutível?
Chanimal.
Yeah, they're not
Ele
using
tem um HPzinho alto, mas dá pra destruir.
Keep in mind, it's going to do damage to his hit points as
Melhor
well.
Eu
ignorar
diria-
então, né?
Depende. Eu diria que se tiver, sei lá, algum proc forte jogar, é capaz de quebrar. Ele tem mais HP que os outros totens, mas não é nada demais. É tipo Grounding, por exemplo, que é tanque mesmo, tem bastante HP.
Ah, o ground eu consigo matar com conflagrar.
Grounding eu acho que tem mais HP que ele.
Ah, então vale a pena matar ele. Ó.
He's gonna have to be very, very careful. And you can see that little fell hunter, that little fell puppy, is actually on top of Cedu here. So that's why he's not gonna be able to drink at all this game. They don't really have the same, you know, mobility as the druid in terms of just running away from it and stealthing, dropping that pet aggro. And now we see another fell eruption combined with the mana rift, doing percentage-based damage onto Chanimal. I'm not sure if this strategy is actually going to work out for them because Cedu is running quite low
Falta
on
mais
mana
uma
before
aqui. A
damping
outra
has
foi
even
super
set in
rápida.
so far.
Foi tão rápido que eu esqueci de pegar o loot. Logo. E aí eu dei modo. Tá bom.
Não tem como voltar e pegar, não, né?
Não, o Ragnarok, o script dele é muito podre. É tipo em sequência, você tem que matar o bicho. Como se fosse quest do WoW, que só funciona depois que você faz uma. É tipo assim, você só pega o loot dele se você tiver feito a quest anterior. Eu esqueci de dar a anterior, aí quando chegou no final não deu pra pegar nada.
I'm curious to see how this game develops as we march forward into dampening.
Engraçado, os caras estão com tanto medo do Chanimal que estão em cima dele, usando o negócio de mana nele, em vez de usar o negócio de mana no Cubsy lá. Ah, eu sei porquê. O Warlock não vai conseguir dar FIA. That's really interesting.
Interromper o FIA.
O FIA custa 5% de mana. Ele não vai conseguir nem fazer a rotação dele daqui a pouco. Achei bem interessante isso. Nunca tinha pensado nessa ideia. Meu Deus, daqui a pouco os caras vão virar em mim e vão começar a dar mana burn. Apareceu no campeonato, todo mundo vai querer fazer. Mas é bem interessante.
Fica com dó do Chanimal.
Sem Fear é foda, né? Aí você desvira.
Ele conseguiu gastar 3 skills ali até lá.
Coitado, é assim que eu me sinto quando é um DK. Ou o guerreiro é ainda pior.
Just getting the Warlock out of mana with the consistent mana rifts, and it feels really difficult for Cloud9 to get anything going.
Yeah, it just seems like they can't get that same, momentum because the melees are having so much uptime.
Recuperou bastante
Now
mana
Channel
já.
gonna gate back to his side of the map. Cubsy looking for a drink, and honestly, normally we would see the Demon Hunter and the rest shaman just all over Cubsy here, but they really don't even care. They're just on top of Channel trying to maximize that damage as much as possible.
O Elfman não tá fazendo porra nenhuma. Basicamente, ele não tá usando CD ofensivo pra tentar fazer alguma pressão, alguma coisa assim. Assim, do que eu vi, né? Até agora.
Acho que ele tá dando mais slow
Mas
e jogando uns polimorfos.
Como ele tá guardando negócio há muito tempo, eu teria usado. Já dava pra ter voltado já. Olha lá, o Zico tá falando a mesma coisa que eu.
Usou o raiozinho com esse vento. Tomou o Banish no Ice Vento.
Bom, você fala do DH, né?
É a trapzinha lá dele. Começar a falar queijo, jaula, que né, sei lá.
Eu entendo, é que eu não tava assistindo.
Em prison, lembrei.
Isso.
Space Steel, que roubou?
Cloud9, this is looking like it's going in Method Orange favor. There's a big attempt here from Cloud9. C2 forced to trade out the Spirit Link Totem and the Ascendants. So a bit of an overlap there coming in from Method Orange. And maybe Cloud9 can start developing some momentum.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see that point in the game where the rest of Shaman...
Uou!
Alright, Chanimal, he gates away, lands
What?
Chaos Bolt.
Chanimal matou?
O Chanimal conseguiu usar o portal e jogou um Chaos Bolt no carinha lá.
Eu quero ser assim quando eu crescer.
Pior que ninguém tava esperando, tava todo mundo ali de boa, batendo e tal, aí portal Chaos Bolt.
É assim que eu quero ser quando eu crescer. Esse cara joga muito, meu Deus do céu. Cadê o replay dele? Eu quero ver. Cara, a estratégia realmente foi boa, eu curti, porque aí o Warlock não consegue dar setup no FIA pra poder castar Charles Bolt, mas ele meio que deu um milagre, ele nem conseguiu. Cara, esse Chanimal é muito foda, velho.
Lá, deu link. Ele correu pro portal. Usou e jogou com os...
Ah, mitou, velho. Mitou demais.
E tipo, o Mage jogou tudo ao mesmo tempo ali junto com ele.
On paper and the way that was playing out was like, oh, this is super cool. Like they're getting more uptime, they're maximizing all their stuff, they're making it through the game. But Cubsy was still full mana and kind of just easily healing through it. So I wasn't certain if it was going to work out for them. It was an interesting strategy, but I don't even know if it was going to work.
I honestly, rewatching that replay, I'm super disappointed in Mez because that is ultimately the biggest throwaway. It's like Dark Soul, it's Infernal.
PK evaporado.
AMS IBF really should have used something there.
Mas é agora, eles meio que foi pego de surpresa. Eu não sei se o Chanimal consegue fazer um negócio desse de novo. O que deve ter acontecido? O DK deve ter tentado parar ele de todas as formas no Infernal, né? Com grip, com tudo, e aí ele gastou o grip. O cara viu que ele gastou o grip, usou o gateway pra longe e fez. E castou. Eu acho que foi uma parada tipo assim. Eu acho que foi tipo um erro do DK, hein? Isso não teria dado grip.
Do you think they're going to go for that strategy again and see if it works out better the second time? Because honestly, we didn't actually get to see, like Sid said, whether
A
it was going
estratégia
to
foi
work
muito
out.
It just feels
interessante.
like that is the point in the game. Would you say 21% dampening? At 21% dampening, that's when, you know, the damage from the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight, it really starts taxing
it's just
the
about to
Druid's
start
mana.
working, right?
That's when you start winning the game. If you can continue to keep Chanimal out of mana at that point, he can't get out Fears. He's basically just a sitting duck. He's going to be trying to get out Chaos Bolts, and eventually he did with the Gateway, but they had an answer. Method Orange did have an answer, they just didn't use it, and they just had to focus up during those moments, and I feel like Method Orange
O
could
cara
have easily
falou que
walked away
eles
with that
tinham
game.
uma forma de evitar, só que foi surpreendido e não usou.
They didn't get to see, you know, if they'd lost the game at 45% dampening, having not got the kill, Cubsy just constantly reset his mana and won that way, then fair enough, they swapped the strategy. Now they have to essentially throw away a game to re-see if that strategy will work.
Yeah, I mean, they piqued my curiosity. I'm not gonna go ahead and doom the strategy right away, but in my experience,
Não lembro de ver esses Nuts jogar.
against a druid with a Rust Shaman on your team,
Esses
more often
Nuts
than not, the Rust Shaman ends up
É.
losing.
É o
I
Alok
feel
também.
like they got to the point where, like you guys mentioned, they were gonna start taxing the druid's mana. I think the big story between the two healers is once you get to a certain amount of dampening, even if the druid has
Quer
a full mana
dizer,
bar, he
eu
burns
acho que ele
through
vai
it
de
much quicker than a Rust
rogue
Shaman can.
agora, se
And
é ele,
that's
porque ele
the
joga
big
dos
win
dois.
condition for them, where they just have so much overwhelming damage that the druid literally can't even go and drink because he's just gonna burn through his mana.
Ele é muito
and then
bom também,
if he
muito,
goes
muito
and
bom.
drinks, the wall
É igual esse Samia. Também não lembro desse bicho.
Samayem, você não lembra?
Não.
Pior que eu acho, eu não lembro o que ele joga. Acho que é Xamã, velho. Mas você quer ver o clipe engraçado desse Snuts? Deixa eu ver se eu acho aqui.
It was all the cooldowns there from Channels. He should have used something, but I mean, now we'll get to see it. Hopefully, both teams play out to its full potential, and then we have a good series on our hands here between Cloud9 and Method Orange.
Good map pick here by Method Orange. Obviously, the best map to make sure that a Druid doesn't find any drinks. Although, I'm not sure if Cubsy will even need to, as they were committing their mana rift solely onto the Warlock to try and remove fear from the game, which was an interesting strategy adaptation. I am wondering. And maybe the Warlock isn't the target with the healing range strategy. Maybe you can actually get good.
Deixa eu ver se é o dele.
Dispelling the Death Knight.
É o dele. Snuts é esse aqui, Love. Você vai adorar porque você vai lembrar muito da gente. Onde você tá? Vou jogar no geral aqui, tá?
Ok.
Só assim, você vai adorar. Prometo.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in disagreement to what we decided in between the games. I think if
Até os pros
really cleanly, you know,
fazem isso.
cooldowns where he should, etc., then this is a winning strategy potentially. I don't like.
E no geral ele é um cara super tranquilo, velho. Eu já vi o stream dele de Warlock, tipo, bem de boa.
Eu já tinha visto isso.
É ele que é o Snuts.
I can't eat the trap, I can't eat the trap, I can't eat the trap, sorry.
É por isso que eu não jogo de Afflict, essa bosta. E...
Don't trick it, don't.
o cara...
Oh, I'm on the mount, bro!
O cara de montaria não consegue correr.
What?
E o mousepad dele, que ele tá
Não sei, mas o cara morreu com 40% HP, me lembrar aquele paladino que me fumou. Repara pra você ver, o HP dele tá em 40%. Olha lá, velho. Ah não, não tá em 40 não, desculpa, desceu rápido demais. Ai meu Deus.
I can't eat the trap, I can't eat the trap, I can't eat the trap, sorry. No, don't trick it, don't trick it. Don't trick it, don't. Oh, I'm on the mount, bro!
Já vem, minutinho.
What? This fucking game is so fucking bad, man! Fuck!
They're just spamming fear, spamming polymorph the entire game, not really with a plan in terms of when they're going to be doing it. Damage is pretty high right now from Method Orange though. Cubsy forced to use Iron Bark on Chanimal. They are using the mana rifts on Chanimal. Chanimal's getting a Demonic Gateway box to box, so if he needs to escape to Cubsy's side, he now has that as an escape tool. Frozen Orb going to be placed down. C2 responds, dropping that Earthen Wall Totem. Curious to see if he casts a Healing Rain to remove all these Frost Novas. might not be the most effective while Frozen Orb is active, as it's likely just to reapply slow instantaneously. Sea-Doo is playing a lot more slow
Sabia que tinha uma
in terms of the
cuidado.
healing rain. I'm even wondering if he's running the talent. I believe he is because he casted it earlier on. He must still be running it. I think on this map, Sea-Doo's main strategy should be maintaining his mana and then going for a purge attack like we saw Burley do. That was the most convincing way that I've seen this Demon Hunter Death Knight Shaman composition work. Of course, the healing rain dispels can be good for building momentum, maybe catch a surprise kill, but the main win condition to me for Method Orange is get Sea-Doo into deep dampening with mana, spam purge, and then kill the Warlock with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in principle, and we'll have to see if they do end up doing that. Obviously, one of the big notable differences here for Cloud9 is that since Cubsy isn't the receiver of all these mana rifts, his mana's totally fine. So a purge all-in from Sea-Doo wouldn't necessarily have the same success rate early until Cubsy just run out of mana. My hope is that after Channimals gets into
Tá aí, Sênio.
they'll wait until Cubsy drops
Depois você
the
vê esse clipe que
just
coloquei no
spam
geral ali, velho.
when he
Isso é
is
minha
that
vida no
sitting down, and then
PVP.
that's going to be the situation where potentially Sea-Doo could go for it all in play. But ultimately, I think the strategy here for Method Orange is pretty smart. Channimals, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it in late dampening, because obviously right now he's kind of sitting near the pillar, helping Wealthy Man get his AoE damage off, which I think is smart, you know, just keep some passive pressure up, maybe set up an opportunity to win randomly as they did in game 1. But after that, I think Chanimal can actually use his mobility to kite away a little bit, you know, we've got an Infernal push here, he could potentially gate away, force Trill and Mez to connect back over to him, as they want to do to continue these mana rifts, and that could be an opportunity for them to really kind of tee off on the members of Method Orange.
I think the main problem is the compositions that both teams are running. One brings a lot of crowd control and durability. The other one just brings a lot of durability. So it is difficult for either team to develop a significant amount of momentum until deep dampening. So in these preliminary stages, the teams are just trying to set up their best case scenarios for dampening. Method Orange feel the best case scenario is to run the Warlock out of mana so they can remove the crowd control fear from the fight. In the past, they have used Mana Rift on Cubsy to try to have the healer out of mana deep into dampening so he can't heal, but Cubsy somehow always gets away and drinks to full mana. So instead of going after the Druid, they're going after the Warlock with those mana rifts, and eventually could overwhelm the team and just run Cubsy out of mana purely based off of pressure. You can see that Cubsy has so much free time that he's just casting Solar Wrath, although it is good for him to maximize his global cooldown usage. Even just adding in a tiny bit of damage might be enough to sneak a cooldown that otherwise Cloud9 wouldn't get.
Yeah, and I think for what it's worth, Cubsy's one of the best healers at doing that. That's one of the reasons that we commend him as potentially the best Resto Druid in the world right now. Playing fantastically, both defensively for his team, but also kind of leading the charge with some of this offensive gameplay, whether it be the Feral Affinity or just those simple rafts when you have downtime. You can see Channimals, the work is almost complete on him from Method Orange. He's almost completely tapped on mana. Every single fear costs 5% of the base mana from Channimals, so you can imagine that once that blue bar is low, that fear spam will essentially just cease to exist. This should be the final burn here coming in from Trill in this situation. Now the job really starts for Method Orange though. They need to be careful. Next Infernal's up in about 1 minute, so they'll need to make sure they play around that cooldown this time. Mez can't afford to throw a second game in a row here for Method Orange. Cloud9, of course, for Cubsy, it's just about healing efficiently. I'm really curious how he's going to keep up though as Dampening starts to stack, whether it will be Zico's scenario that the Shaman just falls behind, can't keep up with the Druid with full mana, or whether Method Orange will just exploit that sitting duck of Chanimal.
Healing Rain placed here to try and get that Abomination, some max uptime onto Chanimal, and also Trill as well as Mez to dish out some pain. They get Iron Bark and then they immediately retreat away, realizing they're not going to be able to dent through Iron Bark's defense. Dampening has kicked in. Chanimal's mana is actually doing pretty well. I feel like he was out of mana at this point in the game previous, so I think the mana rifts definitely should be a little bit more on point here from Trill onto Chanimal. Mez isolated again. Let's see how he deals with the situation. All of his teammates are in crowd control. The Solar Wraths are adding in a bit of extra damage, putting the pressure on. Sea-Doo's out of crowd control. They switch to Sea-Doo out in midfield, trying to blast him down. He's going to duck for cover around the pillar. And of course on Hook Point, the small map, Method Orange have this advantage of being able to retreat to safety, but if Cloud9 loses here and goes to the bigger maps, then they're not going to have this. So because Cloud9 won the blind pick, this could easily swing back and forth to a game 5 where Cloud9 pick the larger maps and win off of strategy. So Method Orange may have to break out a different composition. I think they have to if this strategy doesn't work on their best map. That's almost guaranteed. Now at 12% dampening, Sea-Doo's mana is in a good position for purges. And that, I want to see the Purge all-in attempt, similar to what we saw from Burley's team in Europe with the DHDK Nation. That's the only win condition. I don't think you can win if you don't Purge, but it's a matter of picking when you go for the Purges and then also how you use your defensive cooldowns. Because in this position, it looks like they may have to use defensive cooldowns just to survive, whereas I actually think you use defensive cooldowns to stand on top of the Warlock. So while you're dying, you press Darkness to keep attacking the Warlock and not take damage. And then you press Anti-Magic Zone to not take damage. And then you press Spirit Link to save yourself, and you kill the Warlock because he has less cooldowns than you deep in dampening. It's just a matter of what percent do you make that play, because if you pick the wrong percent, if it's too early, then you're going to use the cooldowns and then die. And if it's too late, then you may just die without using the cooldowns. And so that's what Method Orange have to calculate. At what point do they make their big push?
Well, they actually started throwing through the mana rifts over onto Cubsy already. Trill went for that play a couple of times. The Innovate came out, so Cubsy was able to restore a bit of mana, but they have stopped doing it over onto Channel. That's why his mana is fully recovered, essentially. The mana regeneration for the Warlock, essentially putting that for full already. So all of that hard work that we saw in the early game from Method Orange to Channel is now essentially mute as we see those mana rifts coming out over onto Cubs. He doesn't have the Innovate available. It's curious to see whether that stall tactic was just to get them to a threshold of dampening, or whether it would have been better to
Acho que dá
keep
tempo de
Channel
você
out of
fazer
mana
mais
the
uma.
entire game. Cubsy now feeling a bit of the pressure. That was the infernal
Eu
push
devo terminar
from
aqui,
Channel.
comer
This
alguma
one's up in about
coisinha,
1 minute
tomar
here.
banho.
And Sidu's mana is starting to wane, so this is certainly
Ou eu
looking better and
como,
better
faço
for
alguma
Cloud9.
coisa
You know,
e depois
all
tomo
those
banho quando você for
disadvantages we talked
raidar
about
também.
have essentially been reduced here. Trill's going to start doing his job of mana burning Cubsy, but with good crowd control once again from Wealthy Man, unable to find it. Cubman unable to find it. Cubsy's mana sitting pretty higher than Sidu's, in fact, right now, as we're at 25% dampening.
That is not good. You need to have more mana to be able to purge deep into dampening. Otherwise, Mez, I think, is just going to be torn to pieces by Cloud9 in Game 2, which means they'll put Method Orange on match point and almost certainly guarantee the series.
What?
Unless Method Orange have a different composition.
Acho que eu dei Charles Bolt naquela abominação.
In this game, I don't know if they have enough mana to do it.
Ué.
And if they have
Acho
to
que
use
ele
those
errou ali.
cooldowns like Spirit Link Totem, Anti-Magic Zone, or Darkness, the big team cooldowns that are guaranteed to keep you alive, if they have to use those just to stay alive and not to push, I don't think that they have enough battery power to push through to kill.
E essa que agora o druida tá ficando sem mana.
From Trill, he was using the rain from above and actually just tossing Fell Lances at Cubsy in the back line. Maybe there is opportunity to kill the druid, especially on hook point. Cubsy, is he gonna get stopped?
Eita, ele bebeu pra caralho. Nossa, acho que ele bebeu pra caralho. Bebeu uns 30% de mana, eu acho.
Cloud9 are in a solid position unless Method Orange make their decision to push, but if they push right now, then Infernals will get called in. That's why they need to be able to answer that with cooldowns. Infernals are in. Mez grips Chanimal out of the area of effect to try and pull him out of line instead of Cubsy, but didn't really get him too far. Dark Soul activates. There's the anti-magic zone so they can keep attacking the Warlock. Now likely we see Darkness and maybe they go for a Purge all in, but Sidu only has enough mana for maybe 2 or 3 purges. They still have Unending Resolve to go through. They didn't mana rift Chanimal, so he's actually getting fears that are taking Sidu out of the game. So Method Orange, now they're dropping the other part of their strategy. Although Cubsy is out of mana, so maybe they can win off of that. It's so difficult to call when basically everything is decided in a 10-second window of time deep into dampening. It's very difficult to predict. I would say at this point that Cloud9 are in a solid position. Unless Trill lands some mana rifts here and dispels off this Innervate. They actually did dispel off the Innervate. Spirit Link Totem has to be used. Sidu's falling behind. This is where the Shaman becomes a liability because you can't heal with only Riptide at this point in dampening. You have to cast very slow heals like Healing Wave, and that's easily interrupted. There's 2 interrupts on the team of Cloud9 that are only going at Sidu, so if he gets interrupted one time, he's probably going to lose the game. He doesn't have mana to purge. They're already down half their cooldowns. Cloud9's at full health. Cubsy can just run and drink, and then if they try and stop him, they're going to die. I mean, this is it. It's checkmate. Cloud9 have them in checkmate.
Yeah, I mean, this is your Sid's magical 40% Death Knight delete button win condition here for Cloud9 if they can take down Mez. One of the things that I did notice that Mez actually, instead of going for the denial on the drinks using Epidemic, the dot from the disease, he's actually using his micromanagement of his pet, putting his pet over onto Cubsy. But of course, if Cubsy gets away from that pet one time, you know, one root, one Ursul's Vortex, as you can see right now, the pet is rooted, he'll just be out of drink. He's been doing a good job of that. As the pressure mounts higher and higher on Method Orange, they're less and less able to deny those drinks. They really need to just get damage going onto Chanimal. They need to rely on Trill with those death from above, the percentage-based damage that Cubsy surely soonly won't be able to heal through much longer. Doesn't have access to that innovate, but meanwhile, Mez obviously taking a lot of damage. Still mana rifts coming out onto Chanimal at this point, presumably just for the damage. There's no way they're ooming him again at 44% dampening. This game will end very soon, Sid.
Yeah, Mez in a lot of trouble. He has his own cooldowns. Chanimal actually goes for Unending Resolve to try and answer the Gladiator's Maledict push here. Mez is not trading out the anti-magic zone. He wants to line it up with a cooldown, but the longer he waits, the lower he goes. Any magic shield denies the Gladiator's Maledict at least, so Mez gets some value out of this cooldown. Trill is feared away. Cubsy, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and go for a drink, potentially risk Chanimal's life? There's actually no defense for Chanimal, but Sidu gets counterspelled into a full polymorph. Reverse magic from Trill. Any magic zone is stalling damage for now. Wealthyman's still just casting polys, waiting for any magic zone to fade before they push for the kill onto Mez. Icebound Fortitude's all he's got left. Trill flies up into the air, but he can't use Darkness while he's in the air. And Mez was left on the ground. He uses Icebound Fortitude, but that might not be enough at 49% dampening. Trill is feared far away. Darkness may not be a choice if Trill doesn't get back to the team. They're confident to not have to use it. Mez is isolated again with Sidu in a polymorph. They grip Chanimal over, but Trill is far away. He jumps over with Metamorphosis. This has to be the Darkness. There's no other way. It's too late, or he got unlucky there. Unfortunate for Method Orange, but Cloud9 now put them on match points.
I mean, to be honest, I was checking the weather forecast. It said cloudy skies with a chance of infernals.
Caralho, Cloud9 tão humilhando os caras.
Né?
Which we were praising so much, you know, the mana rifts onto Chanimals. It just felt like they didn't actually go for that in the end. They started swapping up the strategy. They let Chanimals regenerate his mana. He became the fearsome beast that he can be on the Warlock, and it was just same old Method Orange lose.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with what Stupides was saying, though. They need to pick a moment in the game where they're trading out the Darkness and the anti-magic zone offensively in the matchup. What were you going to say?
He's not running cover of Darkness. So
yeah, but still.
The Darkness is...
Yeah, but it's buying the thing at the end of a losing game, right?
Here's the thing. Like, I really feel like this anti-magic zone, even Darkness, even though it's not the empowered Darkness, they're still good to trade out a little bit earlier on in the matchup so you can continue your momentum. Once Mez is in a situation where he has to run behind the pillar like this, it's basically game over. Like, they've lost all their momentum on Chanimal. He's going to get topped off in this situation. Trill's getting crowd control.
Acho que o bicho quebrou o mouse dele, foi.
Não sei o que ele jogou, não. Mais uma vez eu quebrei um copo aqui.
E com o Zoro ele deu uma pancadinha na mesa também aí.
Disso aí eu não lembro, não.
Vi a pancadinha na mesa aí. Só que foi aquela pancadinha seguida de uma respiração bem fundinha assim, aí depois...
Te morre, você fica me dedurando aí, te morre.
É, a arena não pode estressar, velho. Mas é foda
Pior
mesmo.
que, tipo assim, quando você estressa, pior, entendeu? Que você tende a jogar pior. Só que tem umas coisas que não dá. Você jogar contra um guerreiro e um xamã é muito escroto, aí não tem como. Eu acho que o que eu mais gosto de jogar contra, por incrível que pareça, é Paladino. Eu acho que Paladino é muito ruim pra melee, por causa do Blessing e tal, e... Tipo assim, ele é muito forte contra melee. Agora, contra Caster, que eu posso dar CC, que eu posso dar Fear, ele não tem tantas coisas assim pra ele sair. É bem melhor. Druida depende muito do druida. Tem uns druida que quando sabe jogar, porra, o cara arregaça também. Eu fui contra um Hunter e um druida que o cara me fumou. O cara me dava ciclone, aí o ciclone tava indo acabar, o Hunter jogava a trap. Aí era tipo, sei lá, uns 15 segundos parado.
É, eu acho muito ruim isso. É Mage, Druida e Warlock. Pode castar o CC a hora que quiser, entendeu? E algumas classes não podem fazer isso.
Druida é uma tristeza castar.
Não, eu não vou defender o Warlock porque a identidade da spec é o FIA, só que já tá lá faz tempo e tal. E ele é muito tipo imóvel. Se você ficar rodando no pilar com o Warlock, você fode muito o jogo dele. Então ele tenta alguma coisa pra empurrar os caras pra fora do pilar, alguma coisa do tipo. Se tirar o FIA tem que compensar de alguma forma. Agora, o que eu acho que não devia acontecer é o cara ficar parado mais que 15 segundos. Igual, por exemplo, você pega um Mage e um Rogue. Vai, se os caras forem bons, eles te prendem por 30 segundos fácil. Porque o blind é garantido uns 7 segundos. Você pode até trinquetar, mas aí da próxima vez que ele usar o blind é 1 minuto. Ele vai ter o setup tranquilo. O blind é 7 segundos, o polymorph é mais um 7, o ring of frost é mais um 7. Pô, tem como o cara te travar, tipo, easy. É muito tenso.
É, foda mesmo. Eu vou subir na sala ali pra falar com o meu colega.
Vai lá. Eu vou ficar aqui recebendo mimos. Fofis? Câmara da rainha?
Tô aqui fazendo uma dungeon, entrei com um buff de XP e já perdi porque morri no primeiro pack.
Putz. Mas The Burning Crusade, pra ser sincero, é bem puxado, velho. As dungeons.
Eu tava... Puxei um packzinho de boa, safe, aí me vem um Hunter e fica lá do outro lado e puxa o outro pack.
O que eu quis dizer é o seguinte. As outras dungeons, seus DPS não precisa ser bom pra carregar. The Burning Crusade, os DPS tem que saber o que tá fazendo, pelo menos.
Obviously, though, Cloud9 has been getting the better of Method Orange in the last season. In spring, Cloud9 then goes on to win the spring finals. Method Orange still doesn't seem to have found an answer here. We're seeing the same slightly different composition coming out here. So what do we think of this Frost Death Knight? Because honestly, I have no clue.
So Frost Death Knight really has one thing going for it, and it's the fact that you can spec,
Frost? Sério?
And what's the other aura?
Mage Frost.
Não, Frost DK.
Frost DK.
Uau!
Ok.
Acho que isso é desespero. Acho que isso é desespero.
Até os casters ali meio que... Frost, não sei o que. Aí eu achei, Frost Mage. Não, TK.
Acho que é um pouquinho de desespero que tá batendo. Isso é o T-Animal aí.
Those two abilities in combination is the reason why we're seeing it.
Well, do Frost Death Knights, they do much less self-healing, right, than the Unholy Death Knight? So is Mez just going to be a completely exposed target if they don't get an early kill on Wealthy?
Well, they don't necessarily need to get an early kill on Wealthy Man, but yes, as the game goes on,
será que os caras vão fazer PVP? Acho que o Zoro ali em cima, você consegue ver pela guild, né? O Zoro tá.
Eu não tô na guilda, Cristiano.
Ah, é verdade.
Tô até sem guilda, Cristiano.
Eu te invito, você tem vontade de mais rápido, parada toda.
Yeah, on like a 2-minute cooldown or something.
I think it's
50 seconds.
Yeah, it's 50 something seconds cooldown on that blink, so small map.
That's a long cooldown. That's a long cooldown.
Yeah,
He's gonna have a good time on this map.
Wealthy Man's gonna get the Chanimal treatment here, just become a potato being battered around by Trill and Mez. One of the other things that's interesting here is that Trill's actually swapping over onto the Windwalker, suggesting slightly more offense in terms of damage for Method Orange.
I mean, it just wasn't working out. Method Orange, basically what was happening in those games is there's a very sweet spot that Method Orange has to hit in order to close out the game, but they were unable to find it, and things just spiral out of control so quickly at that deep gapping. With the Restoration Shaman, with the limited healing on the Death Knight, once you hit that 40-50% healing, there's basically a point of no return where
bom, vou assistir a partida lá. Vamos fingir que foi intencional pra assistir a partida final.
Você tá streamando isso aí?
Tô.
Ai, ai.
Não campeonato, espadadinha. Vai que dropa uma carta ao vivo. É bom que isso aí é porque a galera ainda não me viu morrer pra ele. Então isso aí faz parte do gameplay, entendeu? O que acontece quando você morre? Tá cheio de noob que morre, entendeu? Tô ensinando aí o que acontece quando você morre.
Ok, né?
É tipo assim, eu não faço nada errado, eu ensino como não fazer. Ah, não é. Ah, não tá dando muito certo pra eles não, é uma parada.
Eu vim com todo cuidado, puxei um packzinho, dei loss, puxei o outro, dei loss, todo chegar a praga de um mage blinka no meio dos bichos.
Ah, se tá ruim pra você imaginar pro healer que tá curando esses noobs.
Ah,
securing a kill. I think the Windwalker Monk's going to be a little bit better, but so far Method Orange just hasn't been the greatest start for them. Wealthy Man has been positioned very far away. Chanimal has had great backup as well as Cubsy, and they basically have Method Orange completely pinned down at the pillar. Mez is able to recover, but the one thing about this strategy, the Delirium and the Heartstop, is Mez has to actually maintain uptime on Wealthy Man. If he can never get there, like we're seeing right now, he's just feared away, he's rooted, he's rake stunned, Cubsy's now getting aggressive, then all of a sudden you don't really get that main benefit as Wealthy Man isn't struggling to get away, he's not tanking a lot of that damage. This is when Method Orange, they have to make a push, they have to commit to staying on top of Wealthy Man and trying to start generate some pressure.
Yeah, I think this is a case of, you know, they have tried this strategy in the past. I think it was actually last year when they played the Frost Death Knight a little bit into Rogue Mage, because Rogue Mage was incredibly prominent. But think about the comparisons between Rogue Mage and a Warlock in the MLD. You know, the Warlock provides double coil, he provides a fear, he provides a gateway, and Cubsy also has tools such as the Ursul's Vortex. All of these things will make it harder for Method Orange to get the uptime on Wealthy Man before they even start thinking about those shimmers, the blinks from the Frost Mage. So there's so many tools that Cloud9 have to nullify this strategy. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Mez and Trill to get that uptime. That said, they do have a little bit right now. Chanimal's therefore spamming out a few fears, trying to help his mage get a little bit away, because once he is, of course, those clones will start regenerating much faster as long as he's far away from Mez.
Yeah, and we look at mana. This small map is going to help Method Orange. It's going to be much easier for them to actually shut down any sort of drinks from Cubsy. As long as CD's on point, watching that, they will maintain a mana lead in this matchup. Wealthy Man has actually been taking a significant amount of damage at this point. Big damage coming in from Trill. Chanimal trying to counter pressure the best he can with big Chaos Bolts onto Trill. Sidu has to keep him topped off. Method Orange need to maintain their pressure. They have to stay aggressive in this match. They can't really give Cloud9 an inch to sort of recover, but at this point, Cubsy, he's been sitting down, he's been out of combat, he's in cap form. I think he's going to be able to basically completely restore his mana. Unless Trill was able to shut him down, we'll see. No, Cubsy full mana at this point, and this is a great position for Cloud9 to be in.
Yeah, and on top of that, Wealthy Man actually snuck a sheep over onto Sidu. Really impressive considering the amount of pressure he's been put under by the entirety of Method Orange. I have to say, to Mez's credit, he's done an excellent job keeping uptime on Wealthy Man. He'll be able to grip this Shimmer. Is there another Shimmer available? Doesn't look like it just yet. Double Shadow Fury, a lot of slows coming in, but ultimately Death Knights also have a fair few slows that Wealthy Man's going to have to contend with. His pet's even being interrupted. This looks like an absolutely horrible experience for Wealthy Man, if I'm quite honest. Probably not the most fun. Chanimals, though, will be having a lot of fun. He pops the Infernals looking for some big Chaos Bolts.
Yeah, if you want to have any two players back you up as a mage, it's going to be Chanimal and Cubsy you want by your side. So although Wealthy Man's been severely limited in what he can get done, he's still been able to get out decent pressure. I'm kind of curious to see what build he's running in this matchup. I mean, if I was a mage in this particular matchup against a Frost Death Knight, I would anticipate that they're going to be going after me. But it doesn't look like Wealthy Man's really going to be changing up his build all that much in this matchup. He didn't go for the Freezing Rain, which I think could have been a decent adaptation to get out that instant cast Blizzard and try to reset your Frozen Orb as much as possible. He's still opted into the Deep Shatter talent as well, thinking he's going to get some Frostbolts off in this matchup, and he has managed to do so. Method Orange, when they are forced to retreat, you do get value out of that talent as you can spam out a lot of damage. Nice little attempt here onto Sidu. He needs to be careful, tossing out his Astral Shift in order to survive that Chaos Bolt coming in from Chanimal. Wants to just really limit some of the damage output from Cloud9 at this point in the game. And as this game moves forward, I'm not sure. Do you think they're going to have the damage to take down Wealthy Man? They've limited him quite a bit, but the Frost Death Knight just doesn't seem to have the punch sort of required to actually secure a kill.
Well, I mean, we are entering dampening right now, and I have to say, I feel like this game has felt faster, at least, than the last two games, just because Method Orange has had some pressure on Wealthy Man. We can see another spell for them offensively right here, getting Wealthy Man kind of low to about 20-30%, and if dampening was at 20, let's say, that could have been the first.
Eu vou sair dessa dungeon. Não vou ficar aqui sofrendo isso não. Chega.
Tá tão ruim assim?
Puta que pariu.
Eu não demoro não, isso aqui acho que era só uns 20 minutinhos.
Essa daqui foi triste, meu Deus.
Descansa um pouco, né? Eu vou agilizar aqui.
Tô de boa.
Method Orange go behind the pillar, it becomes harder for them. You know, they use the death grip here. Wealthy Man probably has his gateway back available. He has both his blitz.
Depois dos bichos mortos, fui esquipar, alguém agrou. Fui esquipar de novo, alguém. Aí o xamã apelou, falou pros caras, passa atrás da praga da árvore ali. Aí ok, aí passar. Aí chegou no boss, vai lá o Hunter e dá um hit sem dar CC, sem dar nada naquele boss, que é aquela chivarra, um monte de bicho.
Ah, sim.
Ah, não.
Sim.
Eu desisto.
Ah, mas aquela DG é zoada. Você fez aquela que começa uns bichinhos lá que nunca morre, né? Você tem que mandar sair de sala. Deixa eu encerrar aqui.